The Tarasa, Omi Tawa Chejima Loba Toba Nasa, Tambala, Tuti Che Tuni, Tenju Subicune, Tebali Hilli Puchua, Jajun Zibarism, Jeremy Shaketon, Sajana Chine, Tunito, Tungulan, Tunituan Tarangi, Shmatato, Ne, Tentativa Yorola, Tentativa Jasun Nama Imada, Tesumuchi. Tebali Hilli Puchua, Jajun Ziswala.
Okay, so we're up to the point where J. Rinpoche, Tsongkhapa, had studied the view of the Madhyamaka that comes down from the Buddha through Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, and so forth, and then had gained the ability to consult directly with the Bodhisattva Manjushri, and had cleared up all of his questions and come to the point where he realized the what's called the undistorted view of the Madhyamaka. So until you have the perfect, clear understanding of the Madhyamakas, it's distorted in one way or another. So finally, with the help of Manjushri, he realized the actual view of the Madhyamaka. At this point, upon realizing that, his faith in the Lord Buddha, who is the source of this teaching, rose up in his heart so powerfully, because he realized the true significance of the teachings of the Buddha. At this point, he composed a very famous text, which we call in Tibetan the Tendrel Tuba, which means the praise of dependent arising, or it's really the praise of the doctrine of dependent arising. Okay, so that's this is the point of composing that, and the praise of depending arising, the Tendrel Tuba, is said to be the summation of Tsongkhapa's great work. Is a very long work, which is called the Lekshe Ningbo, the essence of eloquent teaching. Russell.
Adele hilim bu chwas logur den tebalo. Ate kun te sun salisan le ne jirum ji lama ji gite. Lo sun de kanne ji ne pegi yore pe ne tang li yalo ne ji pipa ko yalo. Ne puno chu na ji sa te ba phu ne. Tang bo de ge hilim bu chwa chu ne do ge ne puno chu na ji ge sen shi ne. Ya tan de te tang bo de umi ta te bi te ji shi bi chu gu do. Pekin gobulu sun iban da san kuma peti sembare telelon lulu look in the seas de lino with yoro that tento ban lulu look in the seas down the tango lulu me attaches on the kind asan that person da ta bag iban da san ne te sen di the all me ton di pa den da yi li shi ju ka jo ka thiwang yi se te ton ya da ta bag ya sun re me dan te si sun ba yin asan no kuma all me page tombutlen 그 가는 데가 요새 네 란 찾아자는 게 리니 뭔데가 요새 리니 뭐 좋아서겠다 근데 아니 대치 수수 말에 생각되네 똑같아 송발에서 손네 나사 보는 소리 나지 군래로 대바전 아직 작업한 때가 나왔던 소식 땅 아트네 니 마소 나 똑같아 이지만이 돌지 뚜네 라마테나 가서 구마 촌이 마페니 구 기다 침으로 보는 소리 나지 네, 쿨피하게 세던 거 나신. 땅 감발라카 배우든 내가 리버가 기통 tsongkhapa 슈두야서든 감발라스네 패치 일히로요래. tsongkhapa 고 히사레스는 그거 감발라카네 싱 같아가 또지네. 나칼또니 그 야로 페바레스 루요래. 아, 분수나 때야 또샤 싱거 좀 가다 가네게 샤사기 금바도 요로 니마 보바레사 루지트는 것도 원데 쉐바레스 데소로지. 분수나
Ganden Taringbo today.
지 가네게 금바 샤사 요로 이름이 가네 슈도 요로 kuya tong yorwa ya thari mu yore te parule hama podun naji jere msheli gengarwa ko podun thali kida chigre podun sun ko ya ye te bare podun sun naji da kiru mshi ko le kiru mshi te ba na luji yorwa ye zatne la kambala sal pene te le te mal jere mshi ko hisa se ko ai to te ka ne suwa to ne nakale chujine ya phe bare sine ta content gi shuni ji khu ton ton khini zane Gade Gumban sing to come and lose the Dualata and Karina. I think what is Lucy.
Now this short work of Tsongkhapa, the Tendro Tuba, summarizing the well, you could say it summarizes the main points of the Niyamaka and expresses that is Tsongkhapa's tremendous faith and what would you say, sort of ecstasy in coming to that point of realizing the Madhyamaka and realizing through that realization the greatness of our teacher, the Lord Buddha. This became very famous in Tibet very quickly. Now, it's written in the sloka form, in the poetic form, where you have the 4 lines of verse, and each line has the same number of syllables. So it's very readily memorized and recited with different sort of melodies. So this has left the conference. This became very popular, and there were many stories and amazing stories told about this and how it spread and how so many people gained tremendous benefit and realization from it. One story, for example, is about Chogyal Namgyal of Badong, who was a student of the Madhyamaka, and how he first heard this poem. He was in some remote part of Tibet on a pilgrimage, and there was some sort of very poor pilgrim there along the path who was singing this poem, some melody to Tsongkhapa's poem of the Tendro Tuba. And he was entranced when he heard this, and at first he thought only Nagarjuna could have written this, or perhaps Chandrakirti. And so he listened carefully to the words of this poem, and then towards the end of the poem, Tsongkhapa is actually praising Nagarjuna and praising Chandrakirti. So then Chogyal Namgyal realized, well, this couldn't be by Chandrakirti or Nagarjuna, because they're being praised in it. And so so he asked this pilgrim, and he said, so where did you get this wondrous poem? And the pilgrim said, our supreme teacher, Geshe Tsongkhapa, wrote this. And so at that moment, Namgyal developed this what's called unshakable confidence and faith in Geshe Tsongkhapa. and immediately set off to meet him towards Lhasa. Well, that was a long ways away, and he soon was informed that Tsongkhapa had finished his work in this world and had departed to bring the true teachings of the Buddha to other worlds, no longer available in this world. So he was very upset to hear that, but he went and made a prayer, an aspirational prayer that he will meet with Tsongkhapa on whatever world and whatever pure land he's gone to. And he had some gold and silver pieces with him. So he took the gold and silver pieces and he tossed them up into the air. And instantly they took off. He threw them up and then they took off towards the southwest, which is the direction of Lhasa, but Lhasa was far, far away from there. And they landed on the grounds of Ganden Monastery in Lhasa. So this was all recorded and became one of the many sort of miraculous things associated with this particular text of Tsongkhapa. Thus.
제르무신 가르치고서는 공개 저가게 네 기바인 세계에 순간에 세만세가 요 말이스 이 나니야 지전 잡히야래 지전 잡히 시시바인선 이 나 지전 잡히야게 네 가사 순전에 이 시대랑 공부를 중에 공부를 도스인다 이제 때 순래로 세만세나 야시인 바도 공부 순에서 이 시대는 공부를 그나치네 순래 가방이나 때 나오고 돌에 또 세만세는 배우려서 이러면서 그나치 마도에 내가 순 강갈이 페이지한테 세만세요 말했어 순으로지.
So, if we look at the work of Tsongkhapa, we see that a part of his greatness is in his ability to sort out the vast number of teachings that had taken place in India and in Tibet over about the 2,000 years since the Lord Buddha walked this earth. And so you had, in 2,000 years, tremendous amount of writings on the Buddha's philosophy, and even on his the highest view, which is the Madhyamaka, just a tremendous amount of material. And it was very difficult to sort it out and to understand which is correct and which is a bit distorted and what does it all mean. And just by looking at the text, one could not come to a definitive understanding. Why? Because they were taught over such a great period and to so many different audiences and in so many different contexts. And so just because a text came from the land of the Aryans, from India, and was written by some great teacher, did not mean that it had the highest view. It was maybe the highest view that could be understood by the disciples at that place at that time. So what Tsongkhapa was able to do is sort these out through his ability to contact and interact with the Yidam, that is Manjushri himself. And through Manjushri, he learned what was definitive in these teachings and what required some interpretation. That's
Not names on Jeremy soon yellow. Go Cabodo, Limbo Yurte. In the exam got the Chinese on. And there was journey, Kazina, Yanni Other, Yajin. Ashim Hitch, two chicken, and two Hirochi was still at Tunin, the Coacha, Yedemenda, get to your race soon. Another Sunan Sosaki. Would join Fandos again, Gogun, so you must have would be nature many. Come on, move again, to inquire our charm with this.
So, in this way, Tsongkhapa was led to rely upon the teachings of Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti to understand the undistorted view of the Madhyamaka, and so that then his Tsongkhapa's teachings on this reflected their view as explained to him by Manjushri himself. And so this became his guide for his own writings, and his particular talent in this, beside his own realization, was his ability to explain these teachings in a very straightforward way, which the disciples could then study and come to that undistorted realization of the view of the Madhyamaka. That's all.
That's the song. The Jelami Gundi. I go back to this. My show this. Don't book on rock Dami Telamba. See Dami Don't book on rock Dami Telamba. The like hijab in Udon. Then be someone hijab police. Tsunami about Tambo do. What dog in Dobatans, Tamatashi Kondopa. Kangi she the keeper in Hibatasa. Hijab Sinomada. Lindi me batai, Tawasu, Chibu Chuniko. Nico son Dobade, Snam Tambutere. Leading me batai, Tawa Joroa, the Chibu Chuniko, Chibu Chuniko. Tay Tawasu, Chibu Chuni, Chung, the Nikoso, Dobateshi. Pado Kanza dog, Patos, Kanzaki Dana, Kanza dog, Dobade. Dobadan, Chiri Dami, Dogate, Karisna. Dogi Green. Nangana Tama Jigris, that Mazaga dog, that she would do Nangata Kazaga Dami, Karis, no. Pechi, still digital and Kaldami doing Madata. What about Suji? Inside.
The sheep yapa with it.
Thomas Hijabari, Tsunami Batamu Dosa. What dog and Doba Snubby Tamu Dos, Chibuchunik is carrying. What dog and Doba Tamasa? Tamatashi Kondo Bas, the Chibuchumbi Kishi. Kazakini, Kangi sheet the keeper in hesitation, keep a small Vijay Misidisha. Vijabati.
Okay, so when we first look at these writings of Tsongkhapa, we find them very, very difficult to understand, because we have to realize that these are the ultimate teachings, and these are the teachings which have guided now for centuries the great teachers of Tibet to understand the ultimate view of the Lord Buddha, that is the Madhyamaka. So we should then set about studying them systematically, and understanding that through our efforts at that, we will indeed come to the undistorted, correct view of the Madhyamaka, which is the highest view taught by the Lord Buddha himself for the benefit of living beings in this world. And so this is the best and quickest and most accurate way to come to that perfect realization of the nature of reality, which liberates us from samsara. Whereas if we exert ourselves in other types of teachings, which are only what would you say, provisional. In other words, they don't lead to the final truth. Then we'll be going on sort of side roads that don't lead to the destination. So better to put up with the difficulty in understanding the Madhyamaka and really exert ourselves in that. So the text now turns to the first main point of this teaching, which is what's called the object of refutation. That is to say, the Madhyamaka dialectic is refuting the errors of the conventional way of viewing reality. And what is to be refuted here, first of all, is the idea that there is a truly existing self of persons, personal self. And this is the first main topic in these teachings, these key or essential teachings of Tsongkhapa. And then he gets the quote that's given here from the what's called the 400 verses of Tsongkhapa, which is one of the great texts of Aryadeva. Now, Aryadeva being the chief disciple of Nagarjuna. And then the verse, this shloka or quatrain, it says that the first thing that you have to do is to arise out of your state of having little merit. In other words, first accumulate merit. Once you've done that, then you must realize the error of the view of the truly existent self. And then all you have to do is to realize the unity of the view of emptiness, which refutes all errors. If you can do that, then you have achieved the goal. So that's what Aryadeva says. I think we're getting an awful lot of echoes here. It's sort of...
Yeah, someone has not muted their phone. I'll ask again, please, if you have not muted your telephone, please do so. We're getting a big echo. It's making it difficult for us to hear well. Please mute your phone.
The last person that came on is who it is. Yeah. The person who just took a break on their telephone and just came back on
has left the conference.
Goodbye. I hope it's that person. Hi, you two. How are you? Nice
Okay.
Let's try
Is
some
it
more.
better now?
Let's. Yes, it seems to be a little better.
Yeah, I think it is. I think
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, nope, we still have an
No,
echo.
no.
Someone still needs to mute their phone, please, please. Well, no, let's just turn this down a little bit. Maybe that will help. Let's continue as best we can.
Okay. Yes, well, tell Cedric song.
야, 야. 아, 난 야부리자 또야. 아, 다미니 보데 동부 강자가 다미시. 근데 취 다미시기도. 달량 가자 차라 치용을 집어라. 가자다 수다이네. 치기 돈을 가자 나 주간 잡아라 가자 다미다 취다 잡아라 취다스 로그일 모두. 나 코노 차라요 만니가 가자 집어리. descendwa 나린지 치 명화도 타반 제바레스 다미니 보 미지 돌아 체바 메장세 치기 강자게 띵이 다미테 니 라이 담보 테니 테사 치기 강자게 띵 다미테 니 라이 사 또 치기 니 소았다 차라 요마티니 강자데 타라지 dio 띵지로 대야 투니 땡란 비지 바라 땡디지 바당 나데지 바 소마야서 다 투니 땡란 비지 바들이야 네테 땡디지 바 요로
Right.
눈에서 대마 땡디 미스데 나데지 바 오마지 바데 히타 나데 나바데 치리 까요로 디바 송부여 띵이나요 담보 콜하이 체도 아니 니라이 시도 찌드지 바데 송게 찌드지 제가 도만데 티체리 사지 바틀라 땡니 남이 두그레스 모레 제름버시다 디지나 마부자 코디지 바 네니 야니 소유 제름버시다 디지나 마부게 코마 리바틀라 땡니 자요리스 모레 테다 친 타리 테 싱구숭 니수게 사리 제름버시다 디지나 마부자 코디지 바 니네테 네비 और नेगी जानी सा सुयो सा नेगी जानी नेजी गाजा नेबी नेजी योरो जान सुयो तनो की हेगी yin सुयो ता ता काजना दामी दुजी जिबाला मु योरे तेंदी की जिबाला ना दे जिबा मु दिने ता ने जिदि जिबा देने सुयो yin सुयो सा ने नेगी शे ता नेजी जानी नेजी योरो ला गाजा नेबी ने शाबा नेबी ने नेबी तिदि दुंगे ने तिदि दुंगे से ने जान सुयो yin सुयो ता ता सुयो छि
So we've just gone over Arya Deva's this one quatrain from his 400 verses. One of the 400 verses or quatrains, and so he's saying that having accumulated merit, then you can go ahead and refute the wrong view of the self, and then go on to refute the wrong view of everything, and in that way reach the goal. So this shows that there is a method here, a graduated method, where you first accomplish one thing, and based upon that accomplishment, you go on to something higher and more difficult. And based on that, then you can go all the way to the ultimate goal. So this reflects what J. Rinpoche taught in the way of the graduated path, the step-by-step way to attain the highest goal, which is the state of perfect enlightenment. So it's the 3 steps of the path of the beginner, or the lower path, the middle path, and then the highest path, or the other way it's said is the path of the beginning person, the path of the middle person, and the path of the highest person. So as far as the view of reality goes, in the path of the beginning person, you have the task of we're getting so much feedback here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what else we can do about it. I've turned down the volume on the speaker. Well, let's leave this. We need to leave this here. Right? We can maybe move the speaker away.
So in the beginning, there is the refutation of the wrong views about cause and effect, and namely that is the wrong view that cause and effect is not valid, something like that. People have views that things arise randomly or that they arise at the behest of some deity or something like that. So they have to get beyond that and see how cause and effect is inexorable. The cause and effect is the way in which all things arise. So once they realize that, then they can go on to the next higher step in the view of reality, which is the refutation of the self of persons. And that is refutation of the view that the self truly exists. And having done that, the final thing to be done is to refute the self of phenomena. And that is the view that any phenomena whatsoever truly exists. Now, the principle of the lack of true existence of the self and phenomena, the principle is not different. This is called profound emptiness. Emptiness meaning the lack of true existence of the object. And whether the object is the self or any other phenomena, the emptiness is the same. The principle.
Also,
Hold on just a second, Robert.
yeah,
Push it in. Push hard. Okay.
And so once you realize that, then you can go on and realize the emptiness of all other phenomena. And so therefore you start with the self, and a number of different strategies or methods are used to understand the emptiness, first of the self and then of phenomena. Things like talking about an object like a vehicle, like a ox cart or a car or anything that has wheels and axles and a body and things like that, and you look at the various parts of it, and you see that the object itself is neither the same nor is it different than its component parts. So this is a system of logic where you come to realize that, and then you're realizing the emptiness of the concept or the term, and then this is applied to the self to realize the lack of true existence of the personal self.
다 이자밖에 가서 전주를 못하네. 가자 다 남이 네 발라 가지고 다 그거 요마디니 요새지 시그로 때래다. 전주 따빙을라 말이바 띵으면 잠바 인사. 전주게. 저 가르스무서 따빌로 또비 파타샤빌로 응고 데마투 루시 응마제바 데 마루바 데마 마루바 데마 미바 제도 마리스 된다 데레샴 따빙을라 말이바 띵으면 좀 대수만은 이게 강고지 다다메지 다 응마제나 데 카피 ne dami yabaji ngi sindu ko mari sungre pena be ma thuman da me for be ma thuman da be thun da jogre mat be ma thuman da jo ne ba phog mari ste no da kuma ma sena je me to kuma ngi ma je ban kuma je thuma te no gi re sware be thun da jo da kuma ngi sen je ma no gi gure ma to ma thun ne ma je ji mari sware te sare se te sang ga ja ngi sen te dami ko gre se te ba su sharo petere sha
Right. So here, when we look at refuting the false concept of a truly existent self, the first thing that we have to do is to clearly identify the object of negation. That is, what exactly is the self which doesn't truly exist? Now, this is the essential thing that you have to do, because if you just refute the self and you say, well, the self doesn't truly exist, and you don't know exactly what you mean by that, then you're not really getting anywhere. You can say, oh, the self doesn't truly exist, whatever that means, but of course the self does exist, and you get all confused because you haven't identified the actual object of negation. And so this is why Shantideva and the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, he says, if you do not see the actual object, you will not grasp what is not truly existing. So he's saying you have to identify exactly what you mean when you say self doesn't exist. You have to see what is being negated. What is the object of negation? And then you will have gotten somewhere. On the other hand, if you can't identify the self that's to be refuted, then you're not going to get anywhere, because you'll still hold on to something as the self, even though you have agreed with the sort of general statement that the self doesn't truly exist. So you have to get to where you see the object of negation, and that having negated that, nothing whatsoever of the conventional self still exists. So you become free of that delusion of the personal self. And so then they give some examples of that, like you cannot, if you do not know where the target is, you cannot hit it with an arrow. You cannot shoot an arrow at it, you won't hit it. You don't even know where it is, you can't see it. Or if you go out to catch a thief, if you have no idea who the thief is or what he looks like or anything like that, how will you ever catch him? You will not be able to. So likewise, when you seek to free yourself from the delusion of the self, then you have to know exactly what you mean by the self, and then you will be able to deal with it.
Awesome. Not tell you alone, music is your. The country you're snake is up with no long shut up. Talking about no Geshe Lharam Maliping Raji, me ban Dami Bao. He's someone is only. Geshe Lharam Raliba Mayepa, Muni Yobang, Jella Tiba Miki, Ra Malipa, Rang Wundi, Tutu Yobasa. Tell us, Sigi Xiang, Rang Yun the Yuguri, Ran Yun the Yuguris. Tell her, Jen Xiang Twachin the Tributes, Paribu Kangoji, that the here the Chibachibicola Paribu Kango is not the Yamato, the pay to my Rang no Tulsi Jan, some tongue is one. Nutoni Mangina, Gajang Melon, Chin, Gajang Sangre, Dad Kajidu, Karisma, Kazaka Dark Karidu, two dark Karino Colon, Koyi, your Markian, and you said your own. Sangreation. Then now Paribu Kango is on Yamato Toma, need to go marry Nutoni Mangina, need to go marry. Nutoni Chicken and Gajang Sangreation. Mizemba Karis Nepina, Command and Mel was a good couple was a command Karis and Meris, good couple conditions, news to Marom. Then I race with. He saw maybe a common new Mezeba Genosa. Did I change the sheepy quarter, teach the Dutch member? Jin Rangulino, Yachi to news about Gusa. Gus was a Tibet function. Gajang is the Chigris Nutuni. Neseba. Come on, guys, and Mary Shadows. Good couple conditions and news to Moratano, you may by chinning. Yabuchi, Gajade. Gajang news to Kopaka, you have you get that. Come on, see what no get. Come on, Yabu news to come out, don't screw up. No, it is with that.
Right. Okay, so now the task here is to identify the object of refutation. When you say the self doesn't exist, what is this self that doesn't exist? And what does it mean to say it doesn't exist? So we first have to identify it. And the identification of it means to find a thing which exists in its own right, that is, that independently and truly exists, and that its existence is not based upon something else. If its existence is based upon something else, then it doesn't exist in its own right. It's just a reformulation of something else, or it's a reflection of something else, or without that something else, it doesn't exist at all. And so we have to find the thing which is the self. Well, if the self does not truly exist, then that means there's nothing to be found there. No matter how much we look for it, if it doesn't truly exist, or exist in its own right, or inherently exist, then we can't find it. So the lack of true existence means the non-existence. It just simply doesn't exist. But we can only get there, we can only realize this emptiness or this lack of true existence when we understand exactly what we're looking for, and then we search for that object, and we look everywhere where it could possibly be, and we see it's not there, and then we see further on that what is conventionally understood as the self is merely the outcome or the reflection of other things which are not the self, and that the self is therefore constructed conventionally. It's just a concept which arises based upon an erroneous way of thinking. So this is a whole process that we have to go through to clearly understand it. And so there are many examples of this, that if you set out to identify someone like a thief, and you are relying upon the descriptions of other people that just tell you things that are not too helpful, like it was a man and he was wearing clothes and he was he had a hat on or something like that, then you can't get very far. You can't distinguish the thief from anyone else. So you have to continue on until you have direct personal understanding of exactly what that is, what the thief is, what he looks like, where he lives, all of the unique identifying characteristics. And only when you have thoroughly investigated, then you can identify who it is. So that's what we do with the self. We examine and we see what the self is, and then when we search for it and we see that it does not exist, it can't possibly exist, then we can have the realization of the lack of true existence of the self. We can be freed from that illusion. But so long as we think, well, maybe it exists in some other form, or maybe it exists in some other place, because you haven't looked there yet, then you're still caught up in the delusion of a self. So only when you've looked everywhere and you see that thief never existed, that such a person could not possibly exist, then you realize that it was all a big mistake from the beginning. Oh, that's oh, sorry, karma chunga. Okay, so at this point we will take a break.
Gaja Mangina Demi Duji Ripa Mabushi Tayangsa. Nindi Shibi Chetan June Yosunde. Gaja Musen Yabu Nigrumatum Gaja Mangiba. Any Kangina, Demi Duji Ripa Mushitan, Derukana, Honey with Simu, Tendi a cat in the Chetan June, this one. Yota. Darkans on the Dajik, anything to the Trane. Me Kashana, Chetan Jurgro. This is good. Dindi Shibi Chetan Yosa. Pena, Pumbi Tani Lupula Janis. Pumba China Pumbaki. Pumbasi Tani Lulia, Pumba Tani Lupula. Nepumbi Chudu Pumba Pumbi Shop Wamai, Pumbi Kapu Mai. Pumba Shaki see Tatua. Why my hair baton, 20 to go to Marismata. Lufulia, Yosan, Rangan Yosante. He had the lap of a cup of money, Pubi should have been my Pubi shop of my city. My name was 2 need of Go Marison. The 2 need of Conis, Bunkuchina, how over this. 2 indeed in the Gajan, Leshi Goosey. Goosey, Naye Meba. Pubi Tanishin is on. Uba Tanishin, Chamiji Tumba Shoatan. Liji to be Kusachesan. The Karasikas, this is. Do you did it? What is do you think I didn't let he Gusiage, Gajan using Gada, do you know the Gusage usually? Mazanai maybe will be Tanishin. Chamiji Tumba Shoam. Chamiji and Pubaya Meba Chanda. Isn't the sugar? The lady Liji Tumba Kosachesa, the lady Liji Tumaki to be Kosach, Hadan Chandra. Yamare Kasna teaching this one. You say teaching the Rani Gaja Chuana, Nazen Hiji, and Rashi to Banzi. Gaja Sunakanatus and Nazen Hiji. Naraji to Banzi, Titagris, and Nazen Hiji, Kadina Yubaran also, Kadina Nasa Jungur. Nachi was an army, Nagango, not to go to Europe. Kadina Yuba, this girl, Nazen Hiji, Naraji to Banzi. teacher gubis. The teacher grace, the cat teacher not Lon Hechila, Nan Hajino. This is it down to Taban. Lon Hechila and Nan Hajino, this you can talk this one. Lon Hechis and Cadina, so not the Roda. Then the Pumit in the sea, that and let you on the knee. Rank Pumbi Roda, you Pumbi in the sage. Tabatama, Yamba, Pumbi Subitin, Pumbi Subitin. Punga going to Tabichibu Subitin, Subitin. So true what Tabi now have a hitana. Robin is Jula, Mama changed the Lupus Yobat and then he so that him. What Roma Gila Yobachioro, some of the dead, and then he Nadan Hejiteri is one. Jula Mela searched him. Lupus Yobat and then he is taken. At now then, Yawashi Christian and Hakago is one. Chitabachi Joshua, that Mumbai lost us to Tina, Madonna could dig him do. Nothing hedging Mrs. today. The kitchen was in the top of that do that.
Okay, so now the text here warns us of the common mistake that is made by those who meditate on emptiness. In other words, those who try to understand this analytical process of the Madhyamaka, which refutes the true existence of the self and of phenomena, making a mistake. And what is that mistake? It's the mistake of this sort of binary view of reality, that things either exist or they don't exist. That's your only two choices. And so the Madhyamaka dialectic insists upon a much more subtle perception of reality, where you see that these two poles, existence and non-existence, are in themselves false. And so here, if we take an example, we say when you meditate on the lack of true existence of an object, the example here is given of a pot. This would be like a clay pot. So when you meditate on the emptiness of the pot or its lack of true existence, you first analyze it into its component parts. And you say, well, there is the base of the pot that it sits on, the flat base. There are the sides of the pot. There's the top rim of the pot. There's the inside of the pot, the outside of the pot. And you then meditate on it and you say, well, okay, the base of the pot is not in itself a pot. The side of it is not in itself a pot. The top rim isn't a pot. The inside is not a pot. The outside is not a pot. Any component of the pot, either those large components or you break them down into the individual particles that compose the substance of the pot, none of those are the pot. They're all just components. So if you look for a pot that truly exists apart from these components of the pot, you won't find it. And so you might think, oh, I have realized the emptiness of the pot. Now, the problem here is that you can fall into the great error of the what's called nihilism. Nihilism here is just saying that nothing whatsoever exists. That pot, the term pot is completely erroneous. There's no such thing as a pot. So in this way, you are refuting not just the ultimate existence of the pot, but even the conventional existence of the pot. And you're falling into a nihilistic view where you annihilate all of reality. And this is the extreme of non-existence. So again, the two extremes of existence and non-existence have to be avoided. That's why the Madhyamaka means literally. Madhyamaka means the middle way. So one way to understand that is that it's the middle way between existence and non-existence. So when you're analyzing the nature of the pot, you have to understand, what does it mean that the pot doesn't truly exist? It's not that it doesn't exist conventionally. It's not that there's no pot there that you can put dirt and flowers in, but rather our false idea of the true existence of the pot has to be negated. So we have to find that object of negation. It doesn't come just sort of easily to understand what is being negated here. And so pot is just a simple example. Here we're trying to understand the lack of true existence of the self of persons. And that is a much more powerful thing because it said that we instinctively or compulsively grasp to the concept of I or myself, that we believe that I exist. Nothing else exists. We believe I exist. Myself exists. And that it is truly existent in the self in the sense that it doesn't depend upon anything else. It just exists in its own right. And so this is something that comes to us instinctively through lifetimes, innumerable lifetimes of believing in a self actually existing. And this isn't just human beings. It's anyone who has a mind, even the smallest insect. The text gives the example of the little tiny ants, that even they cling to the idea of themselves. Each one of them thinks of his self or herself as being something which truly exists, and not just in our philosophical thoughts, but in all our activities, in all our impulses, all our thoughts, even in our dreams. Even the ants in the deepest part of their minds hold to the self. Even in their dreams, when the ants are dreaming, they are dreaming of a self. So do we. So do all ordinary beings. That is because there is something that arises instinctively or compulsively about the self, something which exists even apart from those component elements that make up the self. So we understand, well, the self isn't exactly my body, it isn't exactly my feelings, it isn't exactly my thoughts or my consciousness, but we have an idea of something that actually exists there, which is a self, which is not dependent upon the body or the feelings or anything else. And so that's what we have to get at. We have to investigate until we can see what is that self which exists apart from all of the conventional bases of imputation. The basis of imputation is we impute the existence of the pot based upon its shape, its uses, and its appearance, and so forth. On all of those things, we impute the existence of the pot. We do the same with self, and that's what we have to get to. That's what we're getting at through this method of the Madhyamaka dialectic. That's fine.
Awesome. That 네, 단전 해치셔야 거다 해야 돼. 해치싱인데 도망이 받는 발전에 유효받으다 뜻을 해치시고요. 아때 많이 받은 것이 해치 유효 때문에 요새는 들었지냐? 라니 두번째 저러 틀 거다 쓰고요. 근데 거다 미담도 돼. 거다 해치는 거예요. 그래서 근데 단전 해치 나전 해치 라니 두바 같이 해서 나전 해치셔야 돼. 뭐 동안에 실려 봐 그런 말지 운도 이거 봤는데 나중에 해지스 됐어 그래 나중에 레변으로 때문에 이거 두팅 오기랑 나중에 그때 요다 때 나중에 거다 쓰그리 가자 수고 단데 해야 나중에 해지들이 나중에 거다 쓰는데 미담도 나중에 거다 쓰그리 나중에 해지스 그래 해지 단데 간데 하들 거다 쓰는데 두팅 오게 나타나 요다 거다 쓰그리 때 치바 히로지 거다는데 미 근데 나중에 해지 해도 와라 나중에 해지 이제 수수하라 당가전 해지 센터인데 거단들 미담도 이네 나중에 거다 쓰기 자거래 거다데 주세요긴 간젠데 랑에 두번젠데 해지데 건가 요요 바로 왔다 근데 까고야는 나중에 해지긴 되지 나도 가서와 막인데 마신에 디디고 단데 기사면도 네 다음에도 하여튼 얼마나 도착이 나나 단다 안데 반도 소아 나원 하바시 타는 조봉이 시절에 맨날 수지도 루푸요 받는 나중에 해지 있음도 다잖아 이제 가자게 되던 나중에 시비 이제 수수 요래 소아래 가자게 되던 나중에 대수 가리다 돈이 이제 따와 줘라 집이 가자는데 가지 되도 tubi 따송 지담 데미지 제바도 지니 나자바 지시 두디 제말해비 수준화진 제시 따라지 두마도 관계장 제바 마지 방아지 다 요래 송다 나 대송 도와라 대지 무대 지하로 나제 제시 송리세 돈이 따와 줘라 마치비 마줄라 집이 가자나지 다시 이티도 tubi 따송 지지 데미지 제바도 지니 나자바 지지 두디 제말해비 수준화진 제시 따라 라진지 두바 라진 두마도 관계장 제바도 마지빈 간제 지지야 니서 라진 두비 제바도 제니 나제바 지때 순 요발리 니바테 나이 타닌 주비 주신 나이 타닌 주로 참아 인소 내 순 니바데 나이 타로 참아 레소 다스 주제다 이단이 뜻은 지사다 그거 야부 고소하다 대바지 주셔로 타닌 주로 참아 레소네 소요 발리스 니바티가 타닌 주비로 참아 인소래 니바데 나이 타닌 주로 참아 인소래
So we have different ways in which we hold to the true existence of the self, and it said that this the holding to the true existence of the self again is for not just human beings but all beings, all sentient beings have this sort of what's called an innate or a means really congenital. It's something that arises spontaneously with us at all times as we go from lifetime to lifetime. It's sort of an inborn idea of a self which exists. And then we base all of our thoughts and our actions upon this idea of a self. And so there are different levels of this and different ways in which people hold to the self. So one is where some people have studied philosophy and they hold to the existence of a self or to the non-existence of the self. But whether they believe it to truly exist or they think it does not truly exist, they still have this idea of a self, which arises from these, what was called the bases of imputation. In other words, the physical form, the feelings, the discriminative functions of the mind, the compositional factors that make up what we call a self, and the consciousness. These being the five aggregates. Based upon those, there's this idea of a self, and then a person, depending on their philosophy, might think it exists or it doesn't exist, without really getting at the sort of direct realization of what this is, what this self is, which arises sort of spontaneously in the minds of all ordinary beings. Ordinary meaning those who have not directly realized emptiness. So that's the first type, those who have some sort of philosophy which causes them to think about or identify the self as existing or non-existing. And then you have other people who are not influenced by philosophies or philosophical tenets, and the way in which they hold to the reality of the self is sort of a naive realism, where they just assume it exists, and they don't even take up the question of whether the self can be established by way of its own nature or not, and just not interested in such questions. And then there is a third category, and those would be people whose philosophy or religion or whatever causes them to insist that the self does exist by way of its own nature, or is identified somehow with some object or some deity or something like that. So they are focusing on how to prove its true nature, or they are just assuming that true nature to exist. Awesome.
Awesome. Atelier this is soon shibi Nipalia is soon dollar. Nipa Casa Tombode. Demi Chiba shipping answer Bachiton to the Germaneba Nancy Sushita. And then I do much about managing the soon shipita. To the German Sushuna and Nancy do a thing Nancy that turning to be at the is one that the little Samarita. This had the religion dead wrong. So, but they never you treating the room. Someone is at there. Rangi to be cheaper the Jenny, Nancy Bachi soon your bally Nipa. The now, turning you will look some Nipa Cardis Nandera to the German labor, Sociology, the city. I turn you look somebody else wanted. The union, I don't take Tanny, you give look some to them. Nangas and then look Tanny to look Tanazan this one. They ended up. They made a dog, you grew up. Not a cash of your mother. They truly give a gen and then that I am a true to one centimeter. Not on the Tanny to use Muta. Lily Tato or tell Lily Tato and good is the Chaman is a drag at this one. So, but the Carisna, nipping Joji, cheating at the Nancy Subashida, they never Joji, cheating at the Teresa, they do the matter with the Gaza is treating at the Teresa, Gaza Casa. Chichi Teresa, Chichi Arilla, the cargo at the one. Did not be usually in Gaza, and did not back Arisnam, two nodded the Gaza dot what they usually in Gaza to this one, using Gaza said. Then Hiji in Hoshi Jason Runner. Then I doesn't Hiji Hoshi Jason Runism. Doesn't Hiji on his one. Doesn't Hiji in Hoshi Jason Runisi. Yes, you so. How about Tabu? Nash about that. Nikala Sasso Sans to Europe. Think I shall but Sisso Hambatabu say. The Nashamba is the Nashamba is one, and is on Mata Maji will you top of Nahi, the Simba in the Nandosada. The Mata Maji and Lu Simba on the chicken around Koshubi or this one. Takijin and Uncle Chunguri. She's Nasus also Nandugus and Nandugus that would Nashamba yes, Nashamba is one in there. Mata Maji will you not on the Simba in the Nandosada, Simba in the Dagizun, Nagadizun to listen. Not dirty, not dirty. Duji Chawachibate, Mijan Toyota, Chaji Tibiseta, Mijan Toyotanism. Roan Devaka Mijan Toyota, Chaji Terramata, Patakishin, Yamarom. Chaji Tibishinese. Hechila Nai Hansi chose on he. That Nazin Hechila Nai Hansi chose on he be. Should not she be turning to long years at that. Nazin Hechila that. And Hechila Nan Hansi chose on he, Nai turning to long years, that the years. You know, Hechila. Hansi Jetawa, you know, Jeta Mandim. Hector Hansi Jeta Mandiba, Guru Hansi, the Amarism. Yeta Mandiba, Sibus, Meshais. Narani, Suzu to be Hostang, Narani to Narani to be them. Suzu to be Hansi, there is one. Nai Hansini, Sweet. Then you don't I Hansini Suchi, the Higur is one. Or the Baji, one body system. The Baji Joshua coaching.
Okay, so we have to here examine the way in which the I, the self, arises, and why it is so difficult to realize its lack of true existence without falling into a nihilism where we just think that nothing whatsoever exists. So we have to see how our mental processes work. And this is true for human beings, for philosophers, for insects, for anyone, that our criteria for believing something, the threshold for believing it is usually very low. In other words, people are easily convinced that something is true or something exists based upon not some fundamental truth, but rather by conventional ideas. And so this idea of a truly existent self, or just the naive idea of a self that exists, is part of our conventional reality. That is to say, our shared reality with those among whom we live. And not only in this lifetime, but as we go from lifetime to lifetime, we're always, we always come into life in the context of some conventional reality. And so we don't ask a lot to prove the conventional ideas. We just accept them. We naively accept them. And the most basic of these naively accepted truths is the existence of a self. This is the most universal one, because that is sort of the basic thing that we use to make sense of reality and of experience. And so it continues on without any investigation, without any real thorough, deep analysis. We don't tend to do that as ordinary beings. We don't investigate. We don't analyze things in a minute fashion, and especially the basics of our conventional reality, such as the existence of a self. So it's only when we submit it to careful analysis and we try to find what is that thing that we call the self. analyzing it closer and closer and closer, then we find, well, the more I look for it, the more I do not find it. But it's only when this process of close analysis is complete and thorough that we realize the emptiness of the self, and we come to be able to distinguish the conventional truth of the self from the ultimate truth of the self. And we can see that there is the conventional self. It's what we all agree on and what we use as our basis for communication and interaction and connection with others. But when we look at it analytically and very thoroughly, then we see, well, although it exists conventionally, ultimately there's no such self. So this distinction between conventional and ultimate is the key thing in the Madhyamaka dialectic. And it is much easier to destroy or get rid of these false ideas of the self truly existing when someone who's propounding a certain philosophy which asserts the existence of a type of a self that can be fairly easily analyzed, and you can see that people believe in this type of self for a certain reason, and you get at that and you see, well, it's just simply false. It's just like any other belief. Once it's clearly asserted, then you can investigate it. And you can see, why is that person asserting something to be true? And you see the reasons or the motivations or something like that, and you see the lack of any evidence or anything to support that belief, and you look very carefully, you see it's just plain wrong. It's just an error, it's just a deception, something like that. So that sort of artificial construction of a self by some conventional philosophy or religion, that is easier to eliminate. But it is the innate one which we carry from lifetime to lifetime, which even the insects hold on to or assume to exist. That's much more difficult. So here we have to investigate it and penetrate into the fundamental ways in which it arises, and see how it comes into existence, and how that self, that innate self, does not exist in the way that we have always held to it or grasped to it. That it exists conventionally, but ultimately it simply does not exist.
Also, that guy jogging, question that we're not Lorochi. Tawatling, she, the shul and also Magi never choose the lamp much Yoris in the King Lorochi. Melang hatching then in Mekon Desha. Tourism is you that then to Gituji. The Mekon Desha take you and Melang Hachi. Mezuchi. Doing Lorochi. Melag Zoom. Jordan Sun. And the Watling his Yeruji. Net the sun and Lanson Namuguajine, Taramaki Nebadla, Melag Zoom in Doing Lorochi.
So we have just a few minutes for questions, and if you try, please, to focus on the material presented today, that would be helpful. And so we'll cover a few of those as much as we have a little time for.
I have a question that probably reflects my confusion more than anything else, but I am trying to reconcile my regard for my preciousness of human life with my compulsive grasping onto self, and wonder if if we perceive an ant grasping onto their self, are we threatening their life at that moment? How do we perceive that an ant is grasping onto its existent self? So if maybe Geshe, you used this example once, but if I slip off the side of a cliff and realize I'm about to die, and at that moment I have somehow realized the non-existence of self, how would I think at that moment versus if I was grasping onto myself?
Korangi Driwa the Delchor Yika Yorwa. Delchor Yika Yika Gomne Tene Sedi Gatsa Chembole. Tene Gangsaki Doc Maybachene, Tene Culture Delchor Yika the Sachembo Yomai. Doc Yomai, Gangsaki Doc Yomai.
Dapping a hawk to sing said. Then you link us singing there. That hangro never didn't the joy and the link at the conscience. Comics exhaustion reseguro that you link at you leave mat. How about the next shooting it? You live the Hidari. That's the Martina Chichia Yomaro. That the dot is good on that dot the Pakashana. Got you this commando. This is the back. At the suit and nature dot is Pakaja dot the corner. That this commando is the injury Sandre. That's why you go off. This is the Pakaja dot on two new done when Dagamaris. That dot send them a Sichman, the wound, then the Chaman to get dot your off. Standing out of Gonzaga says you will see Nashi. And the Tinjo Geshe Lharam Ahten to be Ahten that degree. That and the car said that you did that the Chitan Kajak dot music, no matter that car too much the music you have at your man. That the music you will have your money. The other dodge in the did and that other dot of Chinigri. That the music dot the courage you could snap. Penna. Yanda would Motana would let you that's how you Suzuki, sold to Niga Tumuro. Sold to Nigana would let you tickle. Ah, Nandi must ask at Jungudu Shinagi. You could talking at the Nanga, Das said that the Regilane got Gaya Dashadi. I thought you must want to see Combat Congress Salvas, Nasam, Tangas, and Dimas she. 100 중국어로 니콜 밸리 저 가게가 다데 중국어로 뭐 이게 당 이제 가버려 가자가 다데 가자 다데 칠레 다 타긴 한다 이제 다시 지금 뭐 가자 다 이제 하고요 말이야 안다다네 다 제만 안 되우냐 안 되는데 제만도 야 다 지어로 하던 가자 다 니버려 저와시 나가지도 거 다도 비스밀라 요리 나도 거 가디네 제가 다 가지고 다 세도 다 라지 가자 세지 다도 가자 다니 볼래로 다 가자 다 가래 따지지 따지지 기대 기침을 때문에 야버렸어요. 된 가자 다 두세 줘라 다딩 그다지 다니 미지가 다데 근데 야버린 거에서 그 까일 하버려 또 쉬었다 이거 살이다 네 그리고 그요 말어 요 맨날 그 요난데 요걸 사줘로 어디 이지 맨이 야버린 제거래 아니 그까 하버 여러모도 가자 다요 말어 나 말으서 그러 이나 그 요난데 요리 시작이 시도 그러 가자다 따빈 걸라 말이 봐 띵금이 봐 다기 그 로사송 따빈 렁이 봐 봐 요 말이지 나도 요 말. 네 이거 맞다 예비 요난 건데 저 그랬어 이거 요새도 뭐 맞아 봐 내가 또 나데 까두고 말했어 까발라 이지만 요새도 야버지 무슨 그 요난데 저 그거 요 말이 그 요난데 저 그거 사지 그 바가나 까다 버려서 그난 그만 무슨 그 얘기는 야부 요랬어 비투는 나줘나 보기래만 비 맞으면 나줘 그 비자소 비 맞으면 나줘 그냥 보고 말아 이바지 비 요래서 조선은 비 봤다 저는 나 보기래도 빼 난데 빼고서 그만 뒤치는 그만 제걸 모두 뒤 맞추지 매지 두스네 그만 시간 지금 어떤 게 레스 세상 가자 나디 야부 뒤셔 가지고 나디 누구 뒤서는 거 나가기나 가서 그래서 나 뭐여도 가자 세지 나디 요리 가자가 나 요리 자 하면 근데 우리 나인데 치마리 나 요리 하지 마서 잡 나요대로 나무 보여 가요 마다 이네들 굳이 못 보여서 안돼 가자가 나디 무슨 거다 때다디 아버지 그는 거니 그 메이마다다 그 사마리 갔다 오기나 다들 가르다 요가 갔다는 부모다 왔다 다는 인생 그거로 부모 다 주시 부모다 어때 제발 내지 만들었으로지 그래서 노도스께 산돈 상게 해야겠다 전에 bag에는 저 봤어 시작해 전에 나서 무지 가고 그랬다 그
Well, that's okay. So this is an important question, which brings up a lot of things because it was mentioned before that in order to realize the selflessness of persons and go on to realize the selflessness of phenomena, you have to identify the objects of negation. And this is a big task because when we say myself and we think of our experience and we think of the teachings like the precious human life and come to realize how precious human life is, our own present opportunity and leisure. And then we contemplate what's it like to lose that. Like the example of falling off a cliff or something, when you realize you're going to die and you're going to lose the precious human lifetime and things like that, and you're clinging to a self. So it becomes all the more important to understand what is the object of refutation here. And the example was given before about how if you can't see the target, how are you going to hit the bullseye with the arrow if you can't even see the target? Very difficult. If you want to catch a thief, you have to know all about that thief and where he's going or where he lives, everything else, what he looks like. If you have no idea of any of those things, how are you ever going to catch them? So that's the idea here, establishing the object of refutation. So here, when we have the teachings on the precious human lifetime, that is the teachings that we should not squander our life in frivolous activities, but we should use our lifetime to practice the Dharma, and ultimately that means to realize the selflessness of persons and of phenomena. So that is the goal of human life, and so when you have that understanding of the precious human lifetime, then you can make good use of your time and not squander it. So then when it comes to facing our mortality, whether it's over the long run or whether something's in the process of happening, like falling off a cliff into a precipice and realizing your mortality very directly, then we see how important it is to use our human lifetime to understand the distinction between the self of persons, which is conventional, and the continuum of perception or continuum of experience that goes from lifetime to lifetime. And we can see that our continuum of experience goes on despite the lack of any truly existent self. So we have to investigate and say, well, what is it that exists and what is its mode of existence? Without any truly existent self, we go from moment to moment, we experience things, and when the time of our passing comes, we experience that. We experience the process of dying, whether it's a slow one or a very quick one, falling off a cliff. We experience that process, and we continue, our continuum of experience goes on unbroken into the next life, or into the intermediate state, and then the next life. So that continuum of experience is not ended even by falling off the cliff. But the self, a truly existent self, was never there. And so what we do in our meditation on emptiness, in this analytical process of the Madhyamaka, is we look very, very, very carefully at that continuum of experience. In other words, our directly perceived reality, and we search for the self, and we understand what is the conventional self versus what is the reality, the ultimate reality, which is free of the self of either persons or phenomena. And when we realize that, then we are freed from the clinging to the self. Now, that clinging to the self always is the greatest when we are under threat of some sort, whether it's someone coming to attack us or accuse us of something we didn't do, then we feel, oh, I didn't do that. We feel very strongly the sense of self. Or if we're falling off the cliff, then we're clinging to that self and worried about its possible annihilation at the bottom of the precipice and things like that. So we have to investigate that, and once we become free of clinging to the self, then it's not such a problem, because we have the continuing experience that then once we realize emptiness fully, then we attain liberation from this process of birth and death.
Allah, tadi shashak. Tangasa dise zosun. Nemla joni. Yagi tadi she. Chukul kasmata. Laso jiuna. Am dajaruchi bna jurisun.
Before the discussion in the
Okay, so that's all our time. We'll have our concluding prayers now, and then be back next week.
Thanks, Robert. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Go.